It's the trillion-dollar question. We're hearing about artificial intelligence, AI, with chat. Companies are talking about it in their earnings. You hear everybody talking about AI. A lot of times when you listen to CNBC, when you read the newspapers, it's all about AI. It seems from 3 years ago when no one talked about AI to be one of the key topics of conversation today. We put it down as the $100 trillion question because from the book, The Coming Wave, Mustafa Suleyman, who founded DeepMind, feels that the potential for AI is the potential to be $100 trillion hit, $100 trillion in revenues over the next couple decades. And I think he's probably right. And think about that, to put it in perspective, worldwide GDP today is $100 trillion. AI could double that. So think about this. And I take this quote from The Coming Wave, but I think it's worth reading as is. The potential of AI is living in a world where we all have a new kind of social, emotional, intelligence supportive mechanism. What happens to a creaky healthcare system when everyone has a powerful, knowledgeable health advocate capable of diagnosing, understanding with unseen levels of precision and granularity? I mean, healthcare is dramatically going to be affected. We should expect massively improved health outcomes for everyone and at a low cost. What happens when every student has a world-class tutor capable of creating a running and customized interactive syllabus on any topic or skill set? We should expect anyone who wants to learn better, faster, and be able to achieve more of their goals. That's part of it. But think about even more. What happens to governments when they can deliver public services at lower cost, tailored more effectively to individuals? We should expect profound increases in the quality of life across society. What happens to the environment when we have new means of inventing truly meaningful dent in our emission profile? What happens when everyone has a partner to help them build that business, finish that project, or just manage the daily grind? What would you do with the leisure time to spend on personal projects and with loved ones? That's a quote from Michael Bashgar, who is a writer, and Mustafa Suleyman, who wrote the book, The Coming Wave. So what is AI? You know, when you look at what's happening right now, news sites are losing a lot of their traffic, education sites are losing 10%, and the entire internet model is breaking down. So what is AI? We see ChatGPT, we see the different AI models taking information, collecting it, they're responding to people, they're creating conversations, they're creating artificial photos and videos. But what is the AI that Suleyman is talking about? What's the AI, in fact, that I'm talking about? I think to understand what it is, it's not chat. It's not the things we're seeing today. It goes far, far beyond that. Let me illustrate. I play chess. I never thought that a computer would beat a computer, a grandmaster, but they did. Big Blue was designed by IBM to play chess, and it beat Kasparov. It was an incredible feat. But what they built that computer with is, in chess, you have rules. The knight moves this way, the king moves this way, the queen moves this way, you capture this way, you can make X number of moves. All of that is built by rules that are designed by a human being. And what Big Blue had was just brute force. It could look at the moves that Kasparov made, and it could look at hundreds and thousands and millions of moves in response. If you just look at the first 3 moves in chess, there are 45 million combinations of moves that can be made. The human mind can't comprehend all of that. The computer could. That was by brute force. If you look at what DeepMind did, the company that Suleyman formed, DeepMind was a company that beat the Go champion. Chess, actually, the first 3 moves, I said 45 million. It's 121 million moves in chess. For Go, the first 3 moves have 2 quadrillion possibilities, something even beyond computers. But what DeepMind did was build a computer which made its own rules. It wrote its own computer code. When you think about human beings and Big Blue, they were writing that code. They were making that code so that people, the rules were established. What DeepMind did is an indication of what AI is computers will write their own code. Think about it. No longer will it be a human being writing the code. The computers will have an initial set of code, and from that, they will write their own code. They will expand and go beyond that. That's the coming economic model and the coming impact of AI. Think about it. It's going to have a significant impact. It's going to have a significant impact in things we think about in terms of computers, things we think about in synthetic biology, and robotics. Those are just 3 areas. They're not all, but they're converging. AI, think about it. And the impact it's going to have on investments. Richard Foster at Yale did a study, and he found that companies that were founded and part of the Standard & Poor's in 1920 had a 70-year average life. 70 years. From 1920, they existed for 20 years. He found that today, those companies that are part of the Standard & Poor's have an average life of 15 years. Think about it. Right now, the PEs are very high. The reality is that some of those companies are going to disappear. We talked about, if you look at Google and the number of searches, it's beginning to really decline because people are plugging into chat and to other AI programs, what are the very basic kind of AI programs, and they're doing their search there rather than going to Google. Create some problems because you're not sure that the answers you're getting back are really true. But, it's changing. If you go back and think of 1966 and the bluest of the blue chips were companies like Westinghouse and Woolworths. Those companies are all gone. The companies we think about as the bluest of the blue chips today, most of them will be gone. What will be coming are companies that are driven by algorithms, and they're companies that are going to make changes in lifestyles, in demographics, and in technology. That's the revolution that's coming. Wall Street will usually arrive late. The brokerage firms really begin to recommend companies when they're late. Think about the dot-com time. If you remember the dot-coms, if you remember in the early 90s, we were beginning to see the impact of the internet. We were beginning to see the formation of internet companies. And what was Wall Street doing? At the time, I worked for a major brokerage house. And the brokerage house restricted any purchases of the internet stocks. They said they were too risky. Nobody knew enough about them. What happened was the individuals were buying in their own discount at Schwab and Fidelity, and they were buying those internet stocks. And if you lived through that time, you remember some of the ads, you know, remember about the truck driver who owned an island. I mean, those ads were coming out. And it was finally Wall Street that said, we're losing customers to the discount brokers. So they opened it up and they hired math majors to talk about internet stocks. Finally, when things are moving along, I would guess we'll see the same thing with AI stocks. It's going to be those stocks where things happen. You know, already some of those things and some of those companies are beginning to form. It's really, really new, and it's going to be a period of decades before we really see the impact. My granddaughter is a junior at UCLA. She's majoring in biophysics. She got an internship this year at a research lab, majoring in biophysics, using AI and components, be constructing a virus. Because now we can manipulate DNA. We have companies that are beginning to create DNA. She created a virus in a test tube which neutralizes another virus. Now exactly all of how that works, it's even beyond my pay grade. I don't understand everything she's doing, but I understand the net result is she could create a virus that neutralized another virus. Think of the impact of that kind of thing. It's going to massively improve health incomes. You're going to have things that monitor yourself and monitor your health, and there are going to be bioengineered products. Who knows? Bioengineering skin, bioengineering different products, reversing the aging process. One of my fun stories is about a company in the UK, and it's been several years ago, but they made a toilet so that when you go to the bathroom, it chemically analyzes what goes down the toilet. It chemically analyzes that, calculates what's missing from your diet, sends an order to the grocery store to replace what's missing in your diet. Now, that's a really crude kind of thing that's taking place. But as we move along, we're going to see more things that are like that. Robotics. Now, C3PO and R2D2, it may not be that long before we see that kind of thing happening. Listen to Elon Musk talk, whatever you feel about him. He's trying to build a robot, Optimus Prime, that will be an actual robot to be helpful. The Japanese have been building robots now because the number of healthcare workers they need the number is significantly less than what they need. But in any case, what will happen is those robots will not be individual like we see in R2D2, CP3O. Those are going to be robots which communicate with central computers, with a computer that's monitoring thousands of robots so that they can write the code. The learning from each one of those robots as they come through, they'll be able to write the code. And it won't be humans writing the code. It'll be the computers themselves writing the code. They'll learn. We're starting to see automated cars, the robotaxis. We're seeing that happen now. What happens is not that the taxi has a computer within it. It does have a computer, but all the information is relayed through a central computer bank, the cloud. And in that cloud, it takes all the experience they're learning from those robo-taxis or those automated cars, and the computers are writing code. They're writing code. They're saying, they're writing the rules of the road, not humans doing that, the computers themselves. That's where we're going with AI. And it's just beginning. We're looking at trade wars, tariff wars. We're looking at scientific talent being seduced away from the United States. But the way to win is not to play the Wall Street game. It's about a picks and shovels type of strategy. The picks and shovel strategy goes back to the gold rush days. The people that made money in the gold rush were the people that were selling the picks and the shovels. Yeah, once in a while you had a gold miner that hit us a load where he got a lot of gold. But the people that really made the money were the people that had the picks and shovels. We're living in a time where everyone wants to be AI. It reminds me of the dot-com time. I remember a company that came public, an IPO company that came public. It was a machine shop, a metal working shop. That had nothing to do with the dot-coms. But when their IPO came public, at the end of their name, they put .com because they could take orders over the internet. That company got 3 times the valuation by adding .com to their name that they would have gotten without that. 3 times. Just because they seemed to be an internet company. They had nothing to do with the internet. They were a metalworking company. They had lathes. They had all those things that machine shops have, but they weren't internet. They didn't have anything to do other than take orders over the internet. And they took them in the same way they took phone calls or meetings with people coming in and issuing an order. We're seeing the same kind of thing happen today. All these companies that are talking about how they're using AI, most of them are not using real AI. They're not using the cloud to create an algorithm, that an algorithm is writing its own code. They may have chat. They may have the little chat boxes when you log into their website and the person can talk, the bot can talk to you and give you answers. We're seeing that on any number of places. That's not the real AI that's coming. The real AI that's coming are the algorithms that will actually write their code. And it's going to be in synthetic biology. We're just at the very, very beginning of doing that. Companies are now beginning to create DNA. They're creating DNA for flavors, for fragrances, for food. Some of the perfumes are now being made with artificial DNA. Or actually, when I say artificial DNA, DNA that's been created by a company that didn't exist before. We're going to see molecules that are created by DNA, molecules which are going to be used in healthcare. All of those things are just beginning. And the way that it works is to be at the beginning, because it'll be Wall Street that comes along after a lot of this is already done. You know, the fact is, you have to begin to think about it today. You have to research, you have to look at the companies. And when they say that they're AI, you have to look in detail and look, are they really using computer codes or computers that make their own codes? Or are they just like Big Blue, doing it by brute force? Are they doing it like DeepMind, whose computers were actually writing the code? Or by Big Blue, where the computers were just simply using brute force because the computers can deal with so much more data and so much more information and are so much faster and calculated. That's not real AI. Real AI is going to be the companies that can do the algorithms where the algorithms actually rewrite code and write code. Many of those companies are going to be real life changers, but there's going to be a lot of imitations too. I remember the dot-com time. I remember Exodus Communications, which was a brilliant idea that had everything on the surface. I think the price per share was over $100 a share at the beginning of 2000. They didn't even make it to 2001. They were broke before 2001 began. We're going to see a lot of that happening. We're going to see companies who claim to be AI, who in fact have nothing to do with real AI. It's going to be companies that truly make changes in technology, lifestyles, and demographics. That's the place to be. That's where we are. That's what we have. That's the insight. That doesn't give you specifics. It doesn't give you companies to invest in. It gives you something to begin to think about. We're sure thinking about it. We think we have even one of the companies in our portfolio that's using AI, real AI. But we're beginning to see potential in other companies too. And just because a company has an algorithm that actually is AI and making its own, some of those will fail too. So it's being on top of what goes on. Anyway, that's what I had for today.